The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Wednesday, March 5th. I'm your host, Andy McNeil. This show is presented by Pinnacle. You can check out Pinnacle at pinnacle.com. So use the code PUCK, P-U-C-K. I like to spell that out so it's very clear what I'm saying. There's no F in there. It is P-U-C-K, PUCK. To help out the podcast and let them know that we're sending players their way. You'll get high limits. You won't get limited. Winners are welcome at Pinnacle, which is a great thing for anybody who actually wins at betting on sports, which I know is a very small percentage of you all, but I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and I mean,
you're
even
all
if you're
winners
not,
in my eyes. Go ahead, Nick. What were you going to say?
even if you're not a winner, I was just gonna say, even if you're not a winner, the prices are pretty much always the best in market at game time. So yeah, that definitely helps regardless of who you are.
For sure, yeah, great prices, very competitive odds, low margins. Like for example, the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers, minus 113 on the Capitals, plus 103 on the Rangers. I'm gonna guess most sports books have this one closer to minus 120 on the Capitals and even money on the Rangers. So you're gonna get a better price on regardless of which side you would like to bet, and that goes for the puck line and totals as well. But let's get into today's show, Nick. I split 2-2 last night, so it wasn't a big loss, but a loss nonetheless, as I did not get the goal from Valerie Nichushkin that I was looking for. We did not get the Blue Jackets. Unfortunately, they got smoked by the Tampa Bay Lightning. But somehow Connor McDavid found a way to get 2 points in a game where the Oilers only scored 2 goals. They got beat by the Anaheim Ducks 6-2 at Rogers Place in their return home from a disastrous 5-game road trip in which they went 1-4. So yeah, I mean, I know if Trent Frederick was in the lineup, that would have made a big difference, but I kid. That wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, that is what we were saying. Like, is Trent Frederick going to solve the concerns they have?
Yeah.
Not to just, obviously it's not all on that, but I just don't think he solved their greatest issues. So,
well, maybe
anyway.
Trent Frederick and Max Jones combined could solve the issues, but yeah, the Oilers not a good performance last night. Disastrous first period. Anaheim scoring 4 goals and then cruising past the Edmonton Oilers on Tuesday. And then I got the Thomas Harley point, thankfully, as the Dallas Stars defeated the New Jersey Devils on Tuesday. But yeah, split 2-2. Nick, how was your night?
Yeah, I finished up pretty much entirely break even on a lot more bets than you. I had some shooters get there, a couple guys get hooked, and then I ended up adding the Minnesota Wild to beat the Kraken. You know, I like the Wild, so yeah, not too bad, but we'll move on.
So I know you probably don't have a bet on this game today, but let's talk about the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers. The Rangers climb back into a wild card spot, just barely, but they've put a nice little run together here. They've gone 7-3 straight up since the start of February. They're going to look to close out a 4-game homestand with a third straight win on Wednesday after back-to-back 4-0 shutouts over the Islanders and the Nashville Predators. But standing in their way is the Eastern Conference leading Washington Capitals. Of course, the Rangers swept the Capitals in the 2024 playoffs. But the Capitals have come back with a vengeance this season and have performed far and above anybody's expectations. They've won both meetings against the Rangers so far this season, 5-3 and 7-4. One of those meetings was way back in October. The other, I believe, in December, or actually in January, sorry. But there's not much separating these two teams lately. You look at their underlying metrics. The Rangers and Capitals ranked 28th and 30th in 5-on-5 expected goals percentage, respectively, per Evolving Hockey. The Capitals were able to snap their 3-game skid, which was their longest losing streak of the season, with that 5-4 overtime win against Ottawa on Monday. Looking to sweep the season series versus the Rangers here tonight. Or no, it's not the last game of the season series, is it? Yeah, it might be. They only play 3
I
times
think
this
it is.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's weird.
some of the division teams only play. Yeah, they don't play the same amount now. So I think the Rangers are one of the ones that the Caps don't play more than 3.
Yeah, excluding the playoffs, Capitals are 7-6 straight up against the New York Rangers in the regular season since the start of the 2021-22 season. Of course, Washington has been one of the most profitable money line bets this season, but that is kind of largely because bettors really underestimated them at the start of the season. They were a great underdog bet. But that has sort of cooled off now that they have been, I guess, appropriately priced over the last month or two. And the Rangers, they've been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. I know you weren't very high on them heading into the year, but they were, expected to compete for a Metropolitan Division title, and they've fallen far short of that, and are in the wild card race right now. Not sure if it's going to stay that way, if they'll be able to climb up the standings at all. But it is an important game tonight, to say the least. So just looking for your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Caps have looked a little flat lately, and the Rangers have kind of been in a couple of these spots where I feel like they're the more desperate team and so on. So I kind of see that argument, but I also think it's kind of comparable to their matchup versus the Leafs on Friday, where I do think the Caps are still the better team, even if it hasn't, entirely gone that way lately. They've played far more difficult matchups. The Rangers haven't really played anyone good the last stretch. If you look at their last 10, they've played 7 against non-playoff teams, a lot of the worst teams, which was why we liked them to make the playoffs at plus 170. I think it was right at the start of that stretch when we gave that out. And yeah, 7 non-playoff teams. One of the playoff teams was Columbus with their whole lineup out more or less at the time. So I do think the Rangers having this bad of underlying results versus who they played is pretty concerning. And I do think there's value backing Connor McMichael to get a point, which was the one bet I had on this game. It's out there at plus 112. I think it's a good bet. We've talked a lot about the Caps' second line, how good Dubois has been, how good Wilson's been. And whether it's been McMichael or Protas rounding out that unit, they've been really good. With McMichael, with Dubois and Wilson, that unit scored 4.55 goals per 60, outscored opponents 22-17. So I think a lot to like there. I feel like we're always just playing Protas or McMichael, kind of whoever's been there. And right now, I think it's a good time to back McMichael. He's looked a lot better since the Four Nations break. Carberry really called him out as one of the reasons why the team had kind of slowed down. And he looks like he's refound his game lately with 6 points over the last 6 games since the break. And I feel like it's kind of not surprising watching his play. So I think that overall the Rangers are a fairly neutral matchup for him to produce in. I think that's a pretty good price given his current role. So yeah, I'm happy to keep backing McMichael here.
Yeah, I was considering Protas as a over 0.5 points bet. I mean, he is listed at
Plus
let's see.
130-ish.
Yeah, plus 128 at Bet365 versus plus 113 at Pinnacle. So you know what? I'm gonna lock that in there for tonight. I like his play. I know he's got kind of cooled off there. He did have a point against the Senators, but I think that is a good bet based on how he's been playing over the last little bit. What he's tied for second on the team with 15 points since January 18th, and he's recorded at least 1 point in 11 of his last 16 games.
Yeah, and I do like it. He's up there on the top line, but that's kind of the interesting thing is he was producing a lot more on the other line. I do think the second line is the significantly better of the two units.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
That's kind of my thoughts here, but I do feel, you could take the stance of splitting between the two as well, with them both at better than plus money and hoping to get at least one, because I feel pretty confident that one of them will click. But yeah, that top line, I'm happy that Ovechkin keeps finding a way, but they look a lot more concerning. I was actually kind of tempted by Ovechkin to get 0 points in this game at plus 175. As hard as they pushed for him, then that has come down a lot. Yeah, as hard as they pushed for him to get offense, it feels like it's still been kind of flat. a lot of the time when he's not scoring goals. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, I don't really want to
Blasphemy.
cheer for that. But anyways,
Yeah. Who
people got
wants to
some good
cheer
stuff
for
going here.
that? Alex Ovechkin, 11 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record. He has 3 goals in 2 games against the Rangers this season, 9 goals in 11 games since January 30th. But he hasn't really performed all that great against the Rangers. He went a long stretch without scoring any goals against his team. So kind of streaky when it comes to matching up against the New York Rangers. But yeah, I would love to see him pot another one or 2 or 3 tonight. While that does seem unlikely, but let's talk about another matchup that has, I guess, big playoff implications if you look at it like this from the Senators' point of view. They were able to overcome that 3-goal deficit on Monday to force overtime against Washington, but they failed to complete the comeback. They're now sitting 1 point behind the Detroit Red Wings and the New York Rangers, who are going to play in back-to-back home games coming up on Saturday and Monday. But they really can't afford to look past this matchup on Wednesday against the Chicago Blackhawks. They are 1-5-1 since February 4th. And since January 1st, Ottawa ranks 25th in shot attempt percentage and 26th in expected goals at 5-on-5. So not exactly a playoff caliber team right now. Obviously, getting Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto, and Josh Norris back in the lineup should help them turn things around going forward. But yeah, time is kind of running out here on the Senators, and they can't afford to drop points against the 31st place team. And, surprisingly, they haven't had much success against the Chicago Blackhawks. They did win the last meeting last March versus Chicago, shutting them out 2-0. But they're 1-11 in their last 12 meetings against the Blackhawks. And obviously, this is an interconference matchup, so they only meet twice a year. But they actually have not won in Chicago since December 20th, 2016. So I don't know, some kind of issue here. Maybe they're spending a little bit too much time taking in all the sights and sounds of the Windy City. I don't know. But from a betting perspective, this is just going to be the second time this season that Ottawa has been a road favorite of minus 200 or greater. They've closed as a minus 241 money line favorite in San Jose earlier this season. They narrowly won that game 4-3. And they're just 3-5 as road favorites overall this season. So you would have lost more than 3 units if you had backed them for 1 unit in each of those games. Chicago, they've won consecutive games for the first time since the middle of December. They defeated the Anaheim Ducks 6-3 and the Los Angeles Kings 5-1. They've only scored 5 goals or more in 10 games this season, but 5 of those performances have come since February 7th. So including their last 3 games in a row. So they are kind of finding some confidence on offense as of late. And they've had a lot of confidence in newly acquired goaltender Spencer Knight with his big performance, stopping 41 of 42 shots in his Blackhawks debut following the trade that sent Seth Jones to the Florida Panthers. But it is going to be Arvid Soderblom in goal tonight for the Blackhawks. He's been pretty good this season. He's ranked 29th in both save percentage and goals saved above expected, according to Evolving Hockey. But he's only picked up 8 wins in 26 starts. But I think that is, more of an indictment on the team itself than Soderblom's play, as this Chicago team is the second worst offensive team in the league, or at least they were between October and February. They moved up a little bit with this performance in the month of February and leading into March here. And they also grade out as a bottom 5 team in shots and expected goals against. So yeah, I don't know. There's, some good vibes in Chicago right now, but they still rank dead last in even strength expected goals percentage and shot attempt percentage. So any success that they might have here is probably going to be short lived. Anything you like in this game? I do have a player prop that I have bet on, but I'll get your thoughts first.
Yeah, I liked the Sens at the opening price there on mine, even on Pinnacle this morning. I think it was, what did I get here? I think it was minus 192 they were at. So there has been a lot of line movement, so whether it's just been the Soderblom news or the market. The Sens have dealt with a really tough injury situation. Like you said, they have had very few games with everyone in the mix, whether it's been all mark out, D-men, Jensen recently, all their forwards. They have been short a ton of guys a lot. So a bit of an excuse there. And I kind of feel like it's a good spot for them to come out with a big performance and earn 2 points. So we'll see. Typically when it feels that way with the Senators, it seems like it's always more difficult than it should be. And half the time it feels like it takes a late push. You always got that Kachuk fight once they're down 3 goals after the first. But I kind of like this spot for them to just come out and control a Chicago team that, like you said, has still been really bad. So yeah, I like the Sens here.
Yeah, and my shot, I guess my shot prop kind of plays into this. Tim Stützle coming off a game in which he set a new franchise record with assists in 11 consecutive games. He recorded 2 helpers versus the Capitals on Monday. He's extended his point streak to 12 games. But from a betting perspective, it's his shot totals that really stand out to me. He's registered 3 or more shots on goal in 7 of his last 13 games and has generated 13 shots in his last 4, 9 shots in his last 2 games. So with Chicago really struggling to suppress shots, I think he's a pretty strong bet to go over 2.5 shots on goal at plus 125 odds. So that's what I'm going with for this one. Tim Stützle over 2.5 shots on goal at plus 125. That's at Sports Interaction.
Nice, good stuff. Yeah, I like it. I feel like Stützle's really popped lately, so hopefully he keeps it going.
Yeah, and what else we have here on the tape? Oh yeah, we've got to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're in Vegas taking on the Golden Knights. You covered this game at the Leafs Nation. So how do you see this one?
Yeah, I like the Leafs at plus 142. I don't think it's going to be overly exciting to watch. I mean, we'll see. I feel like Toronto has not necessarily looked entirely dominant lately, but I think you have to like their combination of high-end offensive guys, and their goaltending has just been so good. So I can kind of see where this number comes from. Vegas holds significantly better uh, underlying results over the last stretch, and has obviously been excellent on home ice. The Leafs have traveled a ton already since the Four Nations break. They'll be playing their 4th game in 6 nights. So it is a mismatch, in terms of the schedule and Vegas being so good on home ice. But I kind of think those things are accounted for when you look at how big of an underdog the Leafs now are at this price. Like I said, Vegas has had great underlying numbers, but I also don't think they have the same kind of high-end offensive talents further down the lineup that Toronto does. Not as much talent inside the top 6. So we've kind of seen the Leafs do a much better job finishing chances, and they're getting excellent goaltending. So yeah, I feel like I can see where the number comes from, but I think it's actually a pretty good chance to back the Leafs at this long of a number. And the Leafs have been a good underdog. They've won their last 3 games in which they've been underdogs versus elite teams. And they've kind of built this reputation for, at least in the regular season, getting up for these matchups. So I kind of think that all in all, this number is just way too long. You look at where it opened; it's moved so much, which is a little surprising to me. So yeah, I maybe I'm being a sucker, but I think plus 142 is too long on Toronto in this spot.
And you didn't have a player prop in this one, eh?
No, that was just it. Sticking with the Leafs.
All right, Leafs plus 142. The other 2 games on the docket for tonight. We've got the St. Louis Blues in Los Angeles taking on the Kings. Another game with pretty big playoff implications. The Blues still trying to get back into that wild card race. And excuse me, the Anaheim Ducks, as we talked about a little bit earlier on the show, big win last night in Edmonton, 6-2 over the Oilers. They're climbing into it. Maybe going to surprise some people here. They are facing off against the Vancouver Canucks tonight. The Canucks, they're also out of the playoff picture right now. And the Ducks could deal a pretty big blow to their chances. Vancouver is currently 4 points ahead of Anaheim in the standings, so this is a big game. So I do have a bet in this one. I know you're going to be covering this one over on Canucks Army a little bit later. So I guess want to hear your thoughts on this one before I get to my bet.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like a spot where like the Canucks, this is pretty much just a must win. It's close to it. They're
Yeah.
coming in, like you look at it, they're obviously Anaheim's been hot lately, but you got to be able to beat someone. And the Ducks are playing back to back. The Canucks are off ideal rest here after a pretty tough road trip. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'll be betting the Canucks. I think the value side, especially at open, was the Ducks. They've come down pretty heavily after last night's performance in Edmonton. But yeah, this is just one. It's got to be the most urgent, high quality performance from the Canucks, or I feel like they're entering this deadline as a team that's just clearly not it. So we'll see how they approach it. I like your look in this game. I don't think there's much value with the Canucks. You know, they have exhibited some pretty clear flaws kind of all season long. They've just been overvalued. So you look at it, they're playing a Ducks team that's on fire, doesn't really have anything to lose, is still going to get a goaltending edge. And yeah, I can't really see how you'd want to back the Canucks here. They've just been so flat offensively. It feels like even if they have one of their better games, it'll probably still be pretty close. So I think it's a decent spot to back some props, but not sold on the Canucks as a side.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I haven't seen, not seeing anything on as far as an update goes as it concerns Quinn Hughes. He returned 3 games ago, but he left Saturday's game. Didn't play the last part of the third period. Tweaked something, and I guess he's dealing with some kind of a little bit of pain. He didn't finish practice. I guess yesterday, and so that's a big question mark for the Canucks heading into this one. Currently at Pinnacle, the Ducks plus 196 on the money line, the Canucks minus 222 on the other side. Total set at 5.5, shaded to the over for this one. But yeah, things have not been going well for the Canucks. They have done a lot of good things against the Anaheim Ducks. They lost 5. What was it? 5-7, I think.
I
For
think it was
some reason,
5-2 to the Ducks last.
yeah,
Was that
five
last Thursday? And the
5-2.
Canucks were playing back to back, but I mean, still, it was pretty
Yeah, that was
clear which team
actually
was better.
that was Anaheim's first win against the Canucks in a while. They ended an 8-game losing streak against Vancouver with that win, and they haven't picked up a win in Vancouver since February 2nd, 2022. They've lost their last 4 trips there. So bit of an edge for the Canucks as far as the matchup goes. But as you saw in that most recent matchup between these two teams, Anaheim can surprise you. And like you said, the Ducks are going to be at a big rest disadvantage. Vancouver coming off a 3-day break, and Anaheim obviously having played last night. They've lost 4 of 5 games since returning from the break, though, including their last 2 in a row. And like I said, there's still no word on whether Captain Quinn Hughes will be available for this one. But regardless, I'm going to turn my attention toward forward Leo Carlsson. He leads the Ducks in scoring since the start of February. He's got 11 points in his last 9 games, has registered at least 1 point in 7 of those outings. So he's on fire right now, and he is plus 150 to register a point at Bet365 tonight. Plus 149 at Pinnacle, so pretty comparable there. But yeah, I think this is a good spot given that Hughes is out of the lineup, and obviously that with him out, the Canucks probably won't be able to control play as much as they usually do. So I think this is a good spot to continue to back Carlson. I think these odds are a little bit too long given how he's performed lately. He's on the second line with Trevor Zegras and Alex Killorn. And yeah, I've liked this play just like the other ones. Looking at 3+ money props, I guess now tonight, or is it?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping. I think this is a good bet. I think Trevor Zegras too has, he just got back from suspension, had a point last night, but he's been really finding it as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
that also helps Carlson there. From the Canucks perspective, I think Connor Garland, Joshua have both been really good lately. I was liking them with Philip Hedl. They are on the top line now, but with Pettersson, and it feels like the market has moved a little bit. Like the prices are worse now because they're on the top line. But you look at the way Peterson's going right now, and it is just shocking. It doesn't make sense. I've always loved him as a player. I even thought kind of sticking with him instead of Miller was the right move based off their, ages, and it kind of Peterson's supposedly really close with Hughes, so it feels like it fit the team dynamic a little more. But his play has been absolutely shocking recently, so that's obviously hurt the Canucks badly as well. And Besser really hasn't been good either. It'll be something if this is his last game with the Canucks. I kind of think, given the offers he reportedly turned down, if those are true, I think their hands are kind of tied. I think if I were them, probably just accepting defeat and dealing him seems like the best move. But
Yeah.
Not a lot to like about the Canucks offensively right now. And I do think all the newcomers have been quite good too. I've written on it a lot. I think the Canucks fan base has been really on this, but like Heedle's been excellent. I think Marcus Pettersson's done his job. Drew O'Connor's been better than expected, but those guys don't move the needle enough if you're going to have your top stars doing next to nothing, which is what they've been getting from Peterson and Besser lately. So, it's been pretty rough for Canucks fans this year, I'd say.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and especially if Anaheim finds a way to win this game tonight, it'll be interesting to see if that kind of pushes the Canucks management over the edge as far as making something happen ahead of the trade deadline here. But it's going to be an interesting few days. We will be back on Thursday with a big show covering all of Thursday's NHL games. I guess quickly, I know you've had a busy morning. But have you seen anything on Thursday's slate that you want to look ahead to right now?
Yeah, the one that I saw out there was Utah as a slight underdog in Detroit, and I think that is a good bet. That's the one I expect them to be favored by game time. So that was kind of the one that when I quickly glanced, I want to get ahead of. Utah's coming in on ideal rest. I think Detroit, we've kind of seen the flaws in their game start to shine through again after they got it going initially after the coaching change. And I just don't think they're going to be nearly as dominant as we've seen recently moving forward. Their power play has been absolutely incredible, but the rest of their game has been, pretty mid. I still think that Utah's got a goaltending advantage with Vejmelka, and at full strength, I like their decor better. I like their top six a little better. So I kind of think that Utah should be favored in that matchup. So we'll see where that one goes. But that's the one that I had been keen to bet right out of the gates.
Yeah, I can't disagree there. But let's quickly, I guess, recap our picks here. I'm on Tim Stützle, over 2.5 shots on goal, plus 132. Protas, over 0.5 points, plus 128. And Leo Carlson, over 0.5 points, plus 150. So hopefully a good night here with some longer shots. And you are on the Maple Leafs money line, plus 142. Connor McMichael to get a point at plus 112. Is that correct?
Yep.
And
then the other one, the other one I'll put out there quick on our shorter little Wednesday show. A lot of people have been on this, but it was still plus 825 on FanDuel today. Is the Devils, who I've been really high on this year, to miss the playoffs. I feel like everyone's been kind of realizing that it could go this way, but might have lost Dougie Hamilton last night. Haven't seen an update on that yet. Obviously, the huge absence really hurts. They already weren't winning many games. And you look at it, they're getting chased down by quite a few teams here. So I think that there's a little value in that number. They have a pretty big lead when you consider how many games are actually left, but they have played 63 games too. So I feel like with the amount of back pressure, I still think the Sens can get it going down the stretch here. So that's one more, good team that I expect to put some actual pressure on them. And so all in all, I think that number is a little long. I don't know how long we'll see that hold for if, they do get bad word on Dougie Hamilton and Hughes here.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Something to consider here going forward. But that pretty much does it for today's show. We will be back on Thursday, like I said, to cover a big Thursday slate from a betting perspective. But until then, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.